Today we're going to look at adding and subtracting negative numbers. If you can get me the title, grade and today's date into your book, don't forget to underline the title. Now the rules that we used last lesson for multiplying and dividing negative numbers do not apply today. Whether or not the numbers are positive or negative today does not change the answer. That is only for multiplying and dividing. Today we have different rules that we apply, and it is not to do with what sort of numbers we have. It's to do with what symbols are shown in the middle of the question. Before we start, what might be useful today is to have a little number line drawn in our books. Now this might not be something that you use much, it might not be something that you use at all, but it's just there as a little support for something that we might need depending on the question. So the first thing I want you to do is to draw a nice vertical line. This one here is 14 squares long, and what I'd like you to do is to number it. So this line here, look, again, just like coordinates, the lines are going through the numbers. So I've started up at 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then into your negative numbers all the way down to -7. If you could please do that in your books to start off with. The first type of question that we've got with adding and subtracting is simply where we add or take away numbers where there is a negative at the start. So for instance, if I said something along the lines of -3 plus 5, all I would do using my number line, or if you can do this in your head, is I start on wherever number appears first. So here I start on -3. It says add 5. So because I'm adding something on, that means I go up my number line. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to get to the number 2. So the answer to this is simply just 2. If I had another example, so let's say -2, take away 3, I would start on -2 because that number appears first. It then says take away 3, so I go down the number line. So 1, 2, 3 places to -5. So my answer here is -5. You can now attempt the first section of questions. If the video can be paused whilst they attempt this, and in about 5 minutes time we'll have a look at the next section. So the next section is where instead of just moving up or down the number line, we might need to adjust or change the question first. Could you write down this as our first example? 5 plus -2 equals. Now here we've got the slightly trickier scenario. Here we are adding a negative number. Now as a mathematician, I don't like it when we have adds and minuses next to each other in a question. So what we do is we change it. If you have these two symbols right next to each other in a question, that is actually exactly the same as me saying, so plus and a minus, is replaced with just a minus. These two are exactly the same. So here we've then got 5 take away 2. Well, 5 take away 2 is 3, so we put 3 as our answer. This here is just our little working step. Let's see another example of this. So if I add this time -1 add -5, here this minus at the front does not bother me. It's on its own. There are no other symbols just next to it, so that can stay. But here I don't like the fact that I've got two symbols just next to each other. So what I do is I change this little plus and a minus into just a minus. So I then write my 5, and at the front look I put my minus 1. So now here, where you might need to use the number line again, I start on minus 1, and because I'm taking 5 away, I move down the number line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places, and this gets me to minus 6. So that's my answer. One final example of this, before I give you some questions to do. If we had minus 1 plus minus 3, I don't mind that minus there at the start, so that can stay because there is no other symbol just next to it. But because it's a plus and a minus next to each other there, we don't like that. So I'm going to replace that plus and the minus with just a minus. So then I can put the number 3 there. This minus 1 at the start is not part of this bit that I've changed. So I've got minus 1, take away 3. So again, if you need to, you can use our number line. So minus 1 and move down 1, 2, 3 places, because we were taking 3 away, to minus 4. So this is my answer. You can now attempt the next group of questions. This should take you about 10 minutes. If the tape can now be paused, and I'll do the third and final section of this topic in a little while. The third and final type of question that you might get when we're adding and subtracting negatives looks something like this. So if you could write down 5 minus 3. Now here we've got 2 symbols just next to each other. This time 2 minuses. Now again, I don't like having 2 minuses just next to each other because it doesn't make much sense. So what we do is when you see 2 minuses, we change that for a plus. Nothing to do with the numbers, just the fact that these 2 are next to each other. I then move this 3 down onto my next line, and this 5 to give me 5 plus 3. Well, 5 plus 3 is 8, so the answer to this one is also 8. The next example, if we start with minus 2, take away minus 4. I don't mind this minus at the front being there because it's on its own, there's no other symbol next to it, so that can stay. But here we've got 2 minuses just next to each other, so now I need to change it. So these 2 minuses, they become a plus. So we just change it when you see them next to each other into a plus. This number 4 just comes down onto my next line of working. This minus 2 at the front, again, just comes down onto the next line of working. So now I've got the question, minus 2 plus 4. Might be useful to go back to the number line to do this. So because it was minus 2, I start on minus 2. Plus 4 means that I'm moving up the number line 4 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This gets me to 2. So the answer to my question is simply just 2. You can now attempt the next chunk of questions.